Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast. I am your host, Janet Sandberg, and I started this podcast to just shine a little bit of light and give people hope who are currently in darkness by sharing stories from those of us who have already been there and made it through. Today we are joined by Dr. Robb. Welcome.
So my name's Dr. Robb Kelly. I'm a psychologist and a behavioral scientist. I have double PhD. I'm in San Antonio, Texas right now. I'm from England, just England, an alcoholic to the depth where I lost everything. Came over here about 18 years ago to Dallas, Texas, and then to San Antonio 4 years ago. And I kind of dedicated my life to research on alcoholism, addiction, childhood trauma, depression, suicide, all the stuff that hinders a lot of people in the world because it hindered me. So we're kind of neuroscientists over here, where we found out a lot more about the mind and the brain and the central nervous system than anybody else. And I'm brave enough to say that because we're researchers. When we look at the neuroscience we use today, our success rate is 97%. Normal success rate is about 8%. So we're doing good over here. We love it. We have 5 offices around the world. I have booked out there. I've been on TV so many times. It's unreal. And yeah, we're just living life, just trying to help people. That's the main thing we do is 25% of our work is pro bono. And me and my wife give $150,000 back every year to people that suffer and need our help. Just love what I do because I do what I love.
Absolutely. That's the way to go. Let's find out how you got here. Obviously, this is a, a passion that is very close to your heart for reasons that you will share with us, because you were obviously in the darkness and I'm guessing afflicted by um, addiction. So tell us about that. What was going on?
So without my knowledge, I was born into an alcoholic family, not so much my direct parents, but cousins and aunties and uncles all died of alcoholism. But back in the
Mhm.
day, they didn't really call it alcoholism or didn't really know what caused it. Like grandfather liked to drink kind of thing, found out it was a
Right.
chronic alcoholic that died of liver failure. So I took my first drink at the age of 9. I was a semi-pro musician at the age of 9 with my musical family. So I'd sit
Wow.
in the back with this big bass guitar and I'd play all nervously.
Mm.
And that's when I took my first drink at the age of 9. My uncle gave me a beer because I was so nervous on stage. And, it started there for me. Many years where everything was good. And when I took my first beer, it changed my world. Everything just became amazing. I was confident for the first time. Other people that age spit out the beer and go, oh, that was horrible. Not for me. Another alcoholic just completely changed. So I kind of relied on that for many years. I came from the projects. Well, the council estates back in England died, if you're listening. Very poor family, paycheck to paycheck, that kind of thing. My dad worked for the gas company. He dug roads to lay the big pipes down, and my mum cleaned houses for other people, which I was quite embarrassed in later years. I was wanting better for me, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do. And I just went through life just, relying on alcohol to get me through and give me the confidence and stuff like that. So I was drinking every weekend when we went out with the band. And then as I got into my teens, I fought my own band and we drink. And it didn't really take over for many, many years. Like college was okay. I just found people that could drink like I could, to be
Hmm.
honest. That's what it was like for me. I just about scraped through. And then later, when I got married, lost 2 kids, it just all went wrong for me. And here's the but, I didn't know it was. I didn't know that I was suffering. I didn't know that I was doing things wrong. I thought
Right.
everybody I was doing. Walking around the yard or the garden 5:30 in the morning on my first half bottle of vodka, I thought that everybody did that. I thought that was normal. Looking back, it wasn't normal.
Oh,
Further from the normal as you can get. But with learned behavior and enmeshment and childhood trauma, that's the gateway drug, by the way. It just felt normal. And then all hell broke loose.
yeah. In what way? What happened?
But I was drinking every day by the time I'm in my 20s. Lots of girlfriends, having a great time. Because I'm a musician, I did session work at Abbey Road, playing with some great musicians. That's the money that put me through college. Everything was great. And so I got married. And thinking, if I got married, I might cut down on drinking a little bit, see if that can help a little bit. No, that wasn't true. So we decided to have our first child. Well, of course, now I'm a father. I went to the hospital. I saw my baby born. Mum held first, and I held, while I'm holding this little tiny baby, I had a Bible with me. I put it on the bed, and I swore to God, to the doctor, and to my wife that I'd never touch alcohol ever again. That was the worst 3 hours of my life. 3 hours later, I'm drunk somewhere. Okay,
Yeah.
and the drinking continued. Decided to have our second child. Well, now it's serious. Of course, I'm not going to drink while I'm at home with two children. So we have the perfect family, 2.2 children, and I don't. It was brilliant. Worst 4 hours of my life. That's all I lasted after the birth. And it continued to do that. The stuff that happened in that house was, I would never tell for years and years because I was embarrassed about it. The
Mhm.
psychological trauma, I hit my wife several occasions. I stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish a bottle of vodka.
Oh my gosh.
So when I look back to that, that's what started, well, a couple of things started my research into it. And then after the stabbing, I fled to Spain for a couple of months until all charges were dropped. I came back home and she was ready. She knew I was going to come back at 3 o'clock. Thought the taxi was going to arrive. So she had all the bags packed and she left. And I was furious. So I go to my attorney to get my children back. So the next day he goes to court, gets some kind of order, knocks on my door with my children, ages 1 and 3. I was so happy. I was like 4 days sober, Janet. It's like, I told you can't mess with me kind of thing. I walked
Mhm.
into the room, I put the TV on and I went into the kitchen and the thought in my mind, wouldn't it be great to have one beer to celebrate my children coming home? 2 or 3 days later, when the police kicked the door down and the children had been fed or changed diapers for 2 days, I was unconscious. Bottles were strewn across the floor, so I'd obviously left them on their own while I went to the liquor store several times within that couple of days. They kicked me awake, I was unconscious. They hit me with unfit father papers. They took my children and they went to the door and I followed them and I felt the lowest of the low that I ever felt. So now, later on, when I look back on this, I knew it was a disease and it was uncontrollable. But the saddest part of my life was when my eldest 3, she had hold of mommy's hand as she's walking down the path, and she said 3 things to me, Janet. She said, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. They're crying, I'm crying. One of the police officers is crying. Halfway down the path, she turned around again and she said, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. And as we got down to the gate, they got down to the gate, they opened this wrought iron gate and she turned one more time. She said, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking.
Oh my God.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it for them, me. By the way, it's the last time I saw her in 30 years. I went back in the house, I opened another drink, and 3 or 4 months later, the houses are gone, the kids are gone, the wives are gone, my medical license are gone. I went to my parents to my friends to acquaintances, and eventually to the streets.
Oh.
I lived on the streets for 14 months, screaming, begging, sleeping on benches, under bushes because it was freezing, dealing alcohol. I attempted suicide 7 times. And on 2 occasions it worked. I was classified as dead on the side of the road and they brought me back to life.
Wow.
Couldn't live with alcohol and I couldn't live without it. That I'd caused to myself and other people was disgusting.
Mhm.
And I still didn't think I had a problem. But I went to, at 2 o'clock in the morning, yes, I'll say 2, in the middle of the night. I was walking by the back ends of Manchester and dropped down to my hands and knees. And I started crying like a baby. I wasn't crying, Janet, because I'd lost my children, all my wife, all my money, all my cars, and I was crying because the first time in my life I realized I can't stop drinking. What it all came down to. It was a rainy
Yeah.
night. It was tears. Rain was hitting my head, mixing with the tears, and hitting these cobblestones on like a purple color. And I was done. I was done. And then, because I was crying like a baby, I realized I couldn't stop drinking. That's when I thought I had a problem. It took all of that before I realized and admitted that I couldn't stop drinking.
Yeah. Wow. I can't even imagine. But the fact that, you were brought back to life twice and didn't succeed the other 5 times. I mean, and now seeing what you're doing, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, you were meant to be here to help other people, but what a rock bottom. Wow.
Well, there's stories that are crazier than that I wouldn't tell for 10 years. And that was when this guy, when I was crying on the floor, I looked up to the sky and said, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. And
Mhm.
this guy walked around the corner, middle of nowhere. And this is crazy part. He'd been to a Bible study that finished at 11 p.m. He'd missed his last bus home. He walked for a couple of hours to get home. He came across a shortcut and he came across me that he'd never taken that shortcut before. He said, you need help? I said, yeah, I'm dying. He was a recovering alcoholic that was a Christian. He took me back to his house. He said, you can stay here for as long as you want, as long as you come to these 12-step meetings with me. Well, I hated their meetings, but I went because it was a free bed for the night, a dry bed. So
Yeah.
the next day off, we went to this meeting. Halfway around the meeting, a big circle, people sharing. And this guy said, my name's John, I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I turned to Derek and said, what did he just say? He said he was recovered. I said, you can't be recovered from me. I've lost my kid. You can't. So after the meeting, I went up to him and said, hey, John, my name's Rob. Will you sponsor me? And he said, no, but I will be a spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks. So I walked to that man's house. I left Derek's at 6. I got there for 7, but I wasn't allowed in until 7. I had to stay downstairs for 1 minute, walk up the stairs, knock on the door at 7. He was adamant, which I thought was weird. And at 1 minute to 8, no matter what we were talking about, he'd walk me to the door and he'd let me out. And I'd walk
Mm.
back home. Hour. I did that for 12 weeks. Not only did my life change, but he said, God's got, amazing things for me. He's going to take me to a foreign country, and from tomorrow my life will change. And I said, John, I love you and everything you've done for me, but I'm living in Derek's house on a block mattress in the basement. Nobody knows I'm there. My life can't change. The very next day, while I'm cleaning the house, that was my job while Derek was at work. He come home at lunchtime and said, hey, the guy that sweeps the floor has just packed his job in. Do you want a job sweeping the floor part-time? I'm like, yes. So it later turned to full-time in a couple of days. So I knew that this job was just like, started working with people during that time. So after a couple of weeks, I got my first paycheck. I went to the gas station. I bought him a little teddy bear and a card. And I wrote on the card, thank you, John, for introducing me to God because he took the compulsion away to drink. I'll never forget that. Walked back to his apartment. When I got there, it looked a little different. The curtains looked dirtier. These old nets up. So I knocked on the door. I couldn't wait to give him this card, John, and this little bear and tell him how amazing my life was now. No answer. And the girl on the right opened the door, and old lady said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, can you tell me where John is? I mean, has he relocated? And she said, John who? I said, your neighbor, the guy here. And she went, I've only been here for 3 months. There's been no one in that apartment since I've been here. And she closed the door on me. So I went round to the left hand and I knocked on the left hand door, and this big guy came. What do you want? I said, can you tell me where John's relocated to, please? He said, John who? I said, your neighbor next. What's wrong with you guy? The neighbor next door. Stop wasting my time. It's not wasting your time. I want to know where John's moved to. And he said, that apartment has been derelict for 12 months. In actual fact, if you walked in the front door, you would fall down to the apartment below. There used to be tape on it. Don't know where the tape's gone, but you couldn't go in. So I let him close the door. I had the right address. I'd done it 12 times. I went back to the meeting and I walked in and the chair went, Robert, thank God for that. You recognize me. He said, yeah, does John still come here? And he said, John who? I said, John, the guy did over in the coffee machine. I'm asking to. And he said, no, you was over the coffee machine talking to yourself, Rob. We thought you were praying. Never found that man, Jenna.
What?
When I started to become wealthy, I put, and it cost me a fortune, the best private detective team in Manchester, and they could find no trace of him. But what he taught me is what I did today. And I've done for 30 years.
Wow.
And I won't tell that story for 10 years because people thought I was crazy or something. So, but when I did start to share it, people were like, oh my God, I've got a similar story. Thank God for that. It took 20 years before I realized it was an angel. And I
Yeah.
was what I do today. So I'd
That's
lost my
why he
children.
was your spiritual advisor.
That's what, so everything then kind of, the 12 weeks, it kind of made sense. And then the 1 minute before, I could only get up at 8 or 7, knock on, and he used to walk me down at 1 minute before. Yeah, that started making sense. I'm like, oh
Mm.
goodness. And my life has been amazing ever since. So then I turned my life around to studying the brain, the mind, find out what's really going on with these illnesses that nobody could help. And nobody knew about the deep psychological childhood trauma that we suffer, and that everybody has it, and how it affects addiction. And it's just amazing. So we studied the neuroscience for the last 5 years around it. And we've become a leading authority on addiction and childhood trauma and depression. It's been incredible. But I've been very aggressive at chasing that. We've done so much research, trials, everything, and we finally think we've cracked the code.
Fantastic. That's amazing. And you can now proudly say that you are a recovered alcoholic, just like
Yeah.
John.
Yes. Those people that don't like that word, it's simple. Recovered in the English dictionary because of the Oxford group means to gain one's health and state of mind. I'm
Mhm.
no longer sick because I don't have alcohol or ethanol in my body. And I'm thinking clearly because the obsession has been removed and we become geniuses when that happens. So I've recovered from alcoholism and addiction
That's
and suicide.
fantastic. And now you help other people.
I've worked with about 8,500 people over the 30 years. We have 5 offices around the world. Like I say, I do a lot of TV books and stuff like that. But here's my two proudest moments. I'm in bed one night 4 years ago and messenger bing. Well, I only see 4 patients, but they're very, very high profile patients. So when they ding, I got an answer. They pay
Mhm.
me a fortune to do that, and that's okay. We work with hundreds more that my staff work with, but I concentrate on these 4. And it was a message from my daughter, my eldest daughter, after 30 years. He said, "Dad, I've just seen you on TV. I don't believe what Mom's been telling me all these years. I want to see you, and I have something to show you." So me and my wife were literally on a plane within 4 hours. We
Yeah.
got back. It was nighttime. We booked a hotel around the corner from our house. Next morning, we went. John, I was so scared and full of fear. What kind of father was you? Is this a joke? Is my ex-wife in on? It was just horrible as we stood at the door, and I didn't have the confidence to knock on the door. And we stood for what seemed hours, but was probably minutes. Next thing she must have saw, and she opened the door, and she ran to us, and we hugged, and we cried, and we laughed a little bit. And she grabbed me, but she called me dad, by the way, on that message. I still got
Yeah.
that. And then at the door, she said, "Dad, come on." And she grabbed my hand and she walked me into a living room and she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter. Right there, Janet. I knew I'd done the right thing. I knew I was working with people. I knew the
Yeah.
card would always bring the stuff back. And we've been over there 2 or 3 times and we speak every day. She's my lead therapist now in my Manchester office. We sent her back to school. And then
Amazing.
4 weeks ago, my youngest daughter got into contact with me. And she said, "Dad, I want to see you, blah, blah, blah." And we've been talking ever since every day. So we're going to go over there to see her. And my life is absolutely amazing today. And my job today is not only to help people. I mean, I employ a lot of people, so it's a business, we charge for that. But 25% of our work is pro bono. And like I said, $150,000 we give back to the community every year, my wife and I, and typical one would be somebody who's suffering from mental wellness or alcohol or depression. When they start getting well, they might go to court and try and get the child back once a week. We'll pay for the court costs. We'll pay for a little car. We'll buy a suit. We do anything that helps people get back into the game because
Yeah.
I want to be your Derek or your John. And I've done that for 30 years, and there's been a relapse for me once or twice when I got complacent along the way. But
Mhm.
the foundation today, you will never see me on a podcast selling my services or books or anything. I'm not here for that. I'm here that one person on this podcast can go, "Wow, maybe I can do that." That's what I
Exactly.
do these people. It's just if you go find me, if you want me, if you find the book that I wrote, message me and I'll send it free. I'll sign it. We'll pay for everything, postage and everything. It's not about that today. It's about how many human beings can I help today? Somebody told me a story years ago that I always stuck in as a guy walked to the Golden Gate Bridge and he threw himself off and committed suicide. When the police fished him out of the water, they found his ID, so he went back to the apartment to look for next of kin. What they found was a letter on the kitchen sink, and it read, "I'm going to go to the Golden Gate Bridge and throw myself off, commit suicide, unless on the way there, somebody smiles, says hello, waves at me. In that case, I'll turn around and try again tomorrow." So my question to everybody out there is, how many people have you walked past today heading to the Golden Gate Bridge? Because you never know.
You never know.
I have to understand that everybody is going through something. The suicide, I mean, obviously I've been there, but this is what I try and why I research suicide is my wife who I met 9 years ago, her brother suffered with alcoholism. They were all at this party one day. He had his 2 kids, his wife, and everything. And he said, Janet, I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock with the kids, and we can go to. So he made plans. The cameras show that he drove into his driveway. He opened the garage. He walked in, grabbed a gun, and shot himself in the head.
Oh my gosh.
You know something, Janet? He was sober when he did it. That intrigued me. That was my goodness. What's all that about? When you expect him to be drunk, you expect him to at least have some, cries for help or something. I've taken pills, getting to a hook, nothing. As
No.
calm as you like. So I knew there was something more to that than met the eye.
Hmm. And that's how most of us who are suffering, we just walk around with the happy face and we make the plans, but all the time there's that conversation in our heads and those thoughts, those negative things saying like, why am I bothering? Maybe I should just end it. And we don't talk about it enough, which is why we
No,
have this
no,
podcast. So that
sure.
we talk about it and so that people know that they can ask for help.
All the time. Well, our neuroscience research into that tells us this, that when we wake up in the morning, our subconscious brain wakes us up because of lack of oxygen. So the lack of oxygen equals the presence of disease. Let's just get that out the door. So when I wake up in the morning on a normal circadian sleep pattern, between 2 and 5 a.m. is when my body's like full repair. It's also when most people die of natural causes. One of the reasons nobody woke up laughing ever is lack of oxygen. So I wake up in the morning, and because of lack of oxygen, my subconscious brain kicks in. This is the guy that stumbles out of bed, okay? This is the guy who's going to go to work, going to sit in that trauma, going to sit in that subconscious brain, which let's face it, the subconscious brain wants to kill you and make you look like an accident. That's this guy. That's all the childhood trauma. That's all. I'm never good enough. I'll never do anything. I'm wasted time. Might as well be dead. Nobody cares. That guy wakes us up. There's what we call the morning work, because there's a conscious mind. This guy wakes us up in the morning. Set of morning rules we do, and what happens is it snuffs out the subconscious brain and we realize who the hell we are. The conscious brain will run that day. That's the guy that can change. That's the guy that's going to prove himself. That's the guy that's going to have an amazing day and help people. But guess what? Have a guess who wakes you up tomorrow? This guy. That's where the 24 hours a day come time. It's not an AA thing. It's like certain parts of the brain reset every 24 hours.
Yeah.
So if we can snuff out the subconscious brain, then the ideations of suicide, harm, self-harm, it's not for that day. That day, the hypothalamus, the basal ganglia, and the amygdala are all working in sync, and the conscious brain will take over. So then we tie childhood trauma back to learned behavior, depression, and then suicide. And it's absolutely mind-numbing when you get into the childhood trauma of what happened here that causes death here. You can't correlate. We can. We'll tell you exactly because if this happened, it's because you're acting and feeling like this. Childhood trauma is the gateway drug. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. It's fascinating studies. And I'm so glad that you've been studying this and that you are doing your work in the world and sharing what you've learned with everybody. And I hope that, more people continue the work in whatever way, works for them and works for the people that they're helping.
I
So
think it's important that human beings need to start healing together. The doctors are too overworked. They don't want to help us out, and don't even get me involved in the food industry. The
yeah,
methylation of food causes all sorts of problems in spiking is depression and suicide. There's probably 80% of food in our supermarkets right now with 50 or 60 ingredients in it. Out of
I
the 50,
know.
there's probably 40 of them that the body's not meant to methylate. Rancid seed oils and sunflower oils and cornstarch and red this and yellow this. It's like the food is making us sick. The pharmaceutical companies got us in their grip. And the only way to do it is to help each other, like we're doing now.
Absolutely.
If you look at depression as a whole, the definition of depression in the the American Medical Journal is a lack of serotonin. But here's what happens. I get depressed, so I say to my mom or dad or whatever, I feel depressed. They say, go to the doctor. Go see the doctor. So I got to get to the doctor. Doesn't really know anything about depression, but he knows that these pills here will raise my serotonin and make me good. So I take these bunch of pills. Now I'm stuck on these pills for the rest of my life feeling happy. So what happens is a false serotonin that we have. So our normal serotonin cannot go higher than the false serotonin. So it's I'm stuck in there Why isn't anybody asking the question before I go to the doctor is why did my serotonin low in the first place?
For sure.
Nobody asked them. Nobody asked that. So I get stuck on this bandwagon, and it's all tied back to illnesses, depression, suicide. It's absolutely rampant, and nobody's saying anything. Nobody's talking about it because hey, the pharmaceutical companies run the world. If they can't stick you on a pill or stick you in a treatment hospital for thousands of dollars, nobody wants to know about recovery. No one wants to know about our research. Why would you want to know our research? You're stopping people drinking. That's billions of dollars on taxes. That's why alcohol has not been banned. Hospitals, they're all these $100 billion industries because there's not really any money in getting people well. It's not
Hmm.
real. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. So, what would you tell somebody who is, at the bottom or heading towards rock bottom right now? They're in the dark, they can't see a way forward. What would you tell them?
First of all, anything that we're going through causes isolation. That's where it all starts. Okay. The suicide, the relapse all starts days before, if not weeks before the event. Okay. Dialogue. Start dialogue with somebody. Don't think you're the only person going through this because you're not. Well, I thought I was the only. No, there are lots
Absolutely.
and lots of research. There are lots of groups. There are lots of good therapists and doctors and psychologists like me who can help you. And it's nothing's temporary. Okay. You might stick a band-aid over it for now until you get help. That's fine, but everything is temporary. So what you're going through, you can recover from surrounded by the right people. But you've got to look at who's surrounding you. If you're surrounded by people or one, two people that's always putting you down or speaking negative, or you can't do that. I mean, don't be stupid. You can't do. Oh, you're putting some weight on there, Rob. I'm just joking. No, they're not joking. Step
Mm.
away from them guys. Show me your friends. I'll show you your future. Hang around 90 depressed guys, you will become the 10th. It's the mirroring part of the brain. Step away and surround yourself with the guys that you want to be. Look for the guy that isn't applauding when you win something. Look for that guy and get him out of your life as quick as possible. That lift you up. You start lifting people up and you watch, you change. And it's not only you. What happens is when I change, it seems like a bunch of my guys around me change. It seems like all these people are now, me that's changed. I can't put a feeling or an action or nothing that somebody says or does to me without my perspective. So if I'm in the childhood trauma state, it's always going to be negative. The subconscious brain running the day, it's always going to be, oh, they're right. What I can't do it. They're right. That's what dad said to me. And that forms internal dialogue. When the internal dialogue starts, all bets are off. That's where you'll stay. You'll stay in that comfort zone, self-sabotage, cesspit, because what they're saying matches what parents or caregivers said. You've got to get away from that. I compliment 3 or 4 people every day, all on my staff. Every morning we get on and it's all like, great job, Jenny, great job, Bill. I mean, we've got to do this stuff because when I compliment someone's dopamine is released in my brain. Human
Mhm.
beings love dopamine. That's all you do is your, and if you don't think this is true, guys, the compliment. Next time you're in a built up area of people, sneakers are always the best. Watch somebody coming towards you with nice sneakers and say to them, hey man, nice sneakers. Hey man, nice. 4 words. 4 words out of your day. Seconds. Hey man, nice sneakers. Thank you, man. As he walks past you, turn around and watch him. He's going to look down at his sneakers at least 2 or 3 times. Now you've just changed his outlook on life. But guess what? He goes home to his girlfriend or wife because he's in a good mood. Now she's in a good mood. Then the mother-in-law calls and you get the gist.
Yeah.
Hey man, nice sneakers. You just changed the world.
Yes. Amazing. I love it. Okay. New goal for me. I do compliment people a lot, but not that often. So it's time to up the ante a little bit.
Let's get our dopamine going today, Janet. That's it.
Yes, absolutely.
Everyone's
Thank
going
you.
through
Everyone is. Everyone is.
questions of pretty random people when we meet them is, what are you going through at night that nobody knows about? And not one person
Mm.
ever said nothing. Never said, oh, look, divorced. Well, actually, and these talking random strangers tell me stuff that they don't
Yeah,
tell the doctors. It's
because
crazy.
you ask. Because you
Yes,
ask and you want to know the answer.
I
It's
think
not
this.
just an off the cuff, how are you?
That's what I was just going to say. Okay, love you, bye. That's got no me. Hey, how you doing? Nobody wants to know. When's the last time somebody sat down with me and said, hey, how you doing, Rob? Nobody does that. Because
Mhm.
A, they think I already know that I'm amazing, and B, they think I'm always doing amazing. Because my job is not to come here and be depressed. My job is not to go out and be depressed in front of somebody else, because that's the guy heading to the Golden Gate Bridge. That's not my job to be down and depressed. I don't have bad days. However, I do have better days than others. But my job is to be smiling and kind and courteous to every single person. When I go to the airport, which is usually twice, 2 times a week, I will go to the restroom every time and I find the janitor and I give him $20. And his face, Janet, his face is in awe. Like they're the guys that nobody speaks to, nobody sees. They're the guys that's nobody gets. I give him $20. I'm not saying that to be braggy. I mean, that's why we earn money to give it away. But his face, I've just changed that guy's life for $20. Are you kidding me? That's the stuff we need to get involved with more.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story and your insights and your inspiration. I appreciate you and the work you are doing in the world. Um, yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Janet. Great to see you guys.
Thank you for listening. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meant for more, and that it really does get better. If you are in crisis, there are numbers that you can call or text to get the help that you need. That information for Canada and the US is in the description below each episode. If you are in immediate crisis, please call 911. We love you, and I hope you'll listen again.